start splitting this piece of wood to make the handle, I'm going to use a tool called a froe. This is a froe. And the way this gets used is you set the blade on top of the piece of wood to be cut, and then you drive it in. And then after the blade gets driven in, you take this handle and you twist that to the side. And so twisting this from the upright position to a sideways position goes from a very narrow point separating the wood to a very wide point separating the wood, causing the grain to split. Now for a piece this long or longer, it might not split all the way through all at once. And so when that happens, you take just a piece of scrap wood, hold that gap open, turn it to the side, force that gap open, put a piece of scrap wood in there, hold it, and then turn the blade upright again, slide farther down that crack, and turn it again. To drive a froe into a piece of wood, you never use a hammer. If you use a hammer, this top edge can get flared out and damage the blade. You've ever seen splitting wedge? See how that's mushroomed at the top? That's from hitting it with a metal hammer. And for a splitting wedge, that's fine. You're typically splitting something like firewood with this, and it doesn't really matter what the top looks like. But for this froe, if that gets split, then you can't use it properly because its purpose is to be driven all the way into the wood and then turned to split, and then you can't turn it with that mushrooming flare out. What's the difference between a hammer, a mallet, and a maul? So here's just a standard sized hammer. So this is made out of metal. So here is a mallet made out of wood, and so it's softer. You could hit the froe with the mallet, but I don't recommend that, because what will happen if you hit the mallet onto that thin metal rail is you'll split your mallet. So instead you use a tool called a maul. Now a maul and a mallet are both made out of wood, but this takes a lot of effort to make. This takes 5 minutes to make. If this gets destroyed, you don't really care. Also, a big critical difference between what defines the difference between a mallet and a maul. If you look at this, this is two separate pieces. They handle going through the mallet head, and then I hit on the face of the mallet on the end grain. A maul is one solid piece, and I hit on the edge of the grain, hitting it like that. And hitting here on the side, this takes a lot of damage and abuse over time, but it doesn't break the entire maul. Over time, this will look very chewed up and get thinner, in which case it gets thrown in the firewood pile and I pick up another piece of firewood and make a new maul. Let's show you this being used. Now I'm going to start off looking at the piece of wood, see if there's anything that I want to try and avoid that'll make splitting this difficult. Also seeing if there's any checks or cracks already in the wood, because if there are, I can't get rid of it, so I might as well use that as a starting spot for splitting a piece of wood. I'm just going to start right there. Now you see how that's in all the way? Well, that nicely came out as one piece. Come to this other end, bottom side, where I got some more square and flush. I could set my froe, and this may or may not work, because this is pretty thin right here, and that's mostly sapwood. So the froe's not going to work too well for the rest of that. So I'm going to start off shaping this with another axe. Axe you've already seen me use. I'm going to square this off.